Hello and welcome to the 6th edition of Aditya Birla Sunlife Mutual Fund presents Voyage 2019. This year, Voyage analyzed the key trends that are impacting India's financial markets and how best we can navigate through the current situation. The next session of Voyage 2019 saw the speaker share his thoughts on the course of India's $5 trillion economy from the perspective of the consumer and retail segment. Let's take a look.
So welcome once again. I'm going to talk about Indian economy from the consumption side. So, a couple of estimates that teams have done on where would India reach, depending on you grow at 6%, 6.5%, 7%, 7.5%. It broadly looks like Indian economy would be about $4 trillion mark by 2025. It could be better at maybe 4.5 if the growth rates are better, or in the worst case, it would probably just be a little south of $4 trillion by 2025. So where does that leave us? There are various ways of, and there were various measures through which people are trying to estimate when would the consumption cycle hit the S-curve. One of the popular and well-studied industry on the consumption side is the FMCG industry globally. If you look at it, FMCG across the world, there comes a time when the consumption habit starts to create a consumption story which is a virtuous cycle of greater and greater consumption. India, if you notice, is pretty much up this point. And I think in the next 3 to 4 years, this is the journey that India has to make, after which the FMCG spending also reflects into a very strong curve which India is riding at this point of time. Many other economies have gone through this. We are pretty much on our path to that S-curve. So broadly, if you look at it, there are 4 buckets in which I have looked at how the consumption story will play out. The first, who is going to drive consumption? The second part is where geographically is that consumption going to be? Is it going to be big cities, small cities, metros, all over the place? Third, and I think a very important part, is what will drive that consumption change? What is it in human behavior as consumers that's changing in our society, in our ecosystem, which is going to drive a change in consumption habits in this country? Because that's critical to drive the overall consumption story if India were to become a $5 trillion economy. India is in a particularly unique position where on many of these factors, pretty large and disruptive changes are taking place, which is going to drive the consumption in the economy. India is a very, very young country. Compared to most of the world, the population which is under 35, the population under 25, the consumers who are coming in, the sheer amount of population which is young is very, very large. So as in any economy where such large number of young consumers are coming in, the likely prognosis for next 10 to 15 years is that you're going to create a very large number of consumers going forward. So that's the first large trend. Second, I think you would have seen about income growth as the GDP grows, as people get into larger economy, as the overall wealth in the society increases. I think India is also seeing the income growth. The third trend is urbanization. Urbans, people living in big cities behave differently, consume products differently, have access to products differently. So urbanization itself drives consumption very differently from the rural or agro economy that exists. And therefore, one driver for larger consumption would be number of people who are moving. And finally, the growing workforce. The workforce is growing because the economy is growing. Workforce is growing simply because a large section of society which didn't have access or didn't work is coming into the workforce. The largest of them are the women coming to work. If you look at on the right-hand side, the consumerism is going to drive a very different behavior, and we believe in 10 years from now, outside US and China, we probably will have the largest consumption economy in the world. We should also look at what is it that's driving, what is underlying this behavior which is driving that. There are 4 things that I have picked up. First is premiumization. Across every sector, and I've seen a couple of sectors around personally, but most sectors you see there is a rapid premiumization that's happening across categories. Of course, the lifestyle choices in health and wellness market, you know this category didn't exist. There was medication and doctors. Today people want to live healthy lifestyle. There are numerous examples of what's driving that, but clearly it's a consumption story which is new story because earlier you didn't spend as much on it. In our own apparel industry, we are finding growth of categories called activewear, athleisure, sportswear, categories which didn't exist. The third point is about convenience and recreation. We all live in the world of Uber, Netflix, Swiggy. Life is easy. And convenience is a very big factor. You would see its implication in the way commerce is done. The whole story of Indian e-commerce is about consumers sitting at home, midnight, early morning, and ordering products which they otherwise had to drive or walk for hours together. And the final trend is about increasing excitement and interest in Indian, natural, herbal, lot of national, lot of things which people looked down upon a few years back. Let me move to, therefore, the last big force of change in the society which is going to drive this consumption. And all of you are aware of, digital is changing a lot of things around the country. It's changing, and the best way to look at it is to look at yourself, is to look at your sons and daughters, is to look at your wife, is to look at even your mother and father and how their habits are creating new consumptions. India has close to 600 to 700 million internet users, and therefore very large segment of population which has access to internet and subsequently to e-commerce. And that's going to be the base on which the economy is going to get built. And that's changing the way consumers are shopping. A few years back, you went to the store, you looked around, you asked your friend. Today, before you think of a product, or almost when you think about the product, you quickly start searching the web. You look for opinions, you look for feedback, you look for reviews, you look for features, you look at attributes, you can compare products. Clearly, the extent of comparison and digitally influenced shopping that's coming is a very, very large number. And therefore, the online spending is growing rapidly. Most categories, it's in early single digits. There are categories like ours, which are deeply affected, where apparel consumption, mobile phone is one, perhaps 30 to 40% of commerce has moved online. But many other categories, and category after category, are seeing how the shopping itself is moving from physical to digital. The future perhaps lies somewhere in between, where the physical and digital come together. Our aim is to look at each of the consumer market and cultural behavior and consumption behavior and create brands around that. There are some on which we are already strong, especially on the men's side. Pantaloons has given us a presence in the women's side, but as we go forward, we want to build a portfolio which captures most of these consumption behaviors and habits that Indian consumers would have. We already have a portfolio of brand which is pretty complete right across from luxury to the mass. You're able to trace how consumption drivers are created by marketers and brands. The underlying factors of the country are, of course, well known and covered well.
When we return, we get you more insights from market practitioners who will engage in a power-packed panel discussion to identify the key elements driving India's growth towards becoming a $5 trillion economy. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Voyage 2019, presented by Aditya Birla Sunlife Mutual Fund and powered by ET Now. The event brought forth India's finest fund managers and equity strategists who shared their valuable insights on where the economy and the markets are headed, both at the local as well as the global level. Here are some of the highlights.
We'll talk about not what has gone right for mutual fund, but what has gone wrong for mutual funds. A lot of things, right? Elections, FMP, debt is not safe, Jet Airways, right? But Birla Mutual Fund, sahi hai, Sachin? What is the problem you are facing when you're talking to your clients who bought into mutual funds thinking that debt they will never lose money, in equity they will only make money. What are you hearing from your clients?
We primarily deal with the HNI and ultra HNI segment. And I think two things are very, very particular in today's day and age. I mean, apart from what's happening in the industry, social media has given us to nudge everybody, every now and then, as and when we want. And two, it's our own fear from within that, over a second, you just shoot up something going wrong in the industry, or there is some sort of an element of risk, and it just boomerangs around. So even if an investor is not busy, but if he reads his WhatsApp and then suddenly the next call is to you that, what's happening with my fund. I mean, no matter whether he has exposure to LNFS or he doesn't have, but then, you need to answer that concern. So I think, apart from the fund managers, our job is tremendously increased in these times. And all sorts of queries we have to set with. And certainly the fear in terms of, money not being safe somehow has trickled down. And therefore we are seeing, liquidity increasingly, drying up, and funds flow increasingly drying up. And election being such a big event, people want to wait and see how it is going to pan out. In terms of our advisory, what we are suggesting to them is that asset allocation is the key. On the debt side, we have, strangely, despite our best efforts, people have exited completely out of fear. We don't subscribe to that, but that's what it has been. And the veto remains with the client.
When all kind of news and rumors are floating around on WhatsApp, people are reacting to the news, right? In this kind of an environment where things are challenging, आप clients को क्या बोल रहे हो? What are you telling your clients? How should they stay the course?
We are advocating stick to the asset allocation. Whatever news comes, the client will know before it could even come on the television or even come on the newspaper, right? So he is well informed. We are in a very advantaged situation because customers are already aware, right? So we are saying that this is investing in equity or investing itself is a very, very long term, and it's a marathon, right? So you have to stay the course and ignore all the short-term news what is coming. So in the recent past, one of the things, the best thing which happened is the recategorization, right? SEBI brought that recategorization. The credit risk funds have been categorized separately, right? So today, even in debt funds, we have, you want to be safe, then you have different class of funds. You want to take risk in debt funds, you have credit risk, right? So customer actually can take risk even in debt knowingly. So this clarity has brought, significant comfort to customers, and more money they are willing to put in mutual fund. And mutual funds have been one of the most transparent industry today.
But when it comes to talking to an Ahmedabad distributor, today, we are 1 month away from elections, right? There is anxiety. हम सुबह से बात कर रहे हैं, सरकार आएगी, सरकार जाएगी, मार्केट गिरेगा, मार्केट बढ़ेगा. For an average investor, आप क्या बोल रहे हो? आप बोल रहे हो इलेक्शन के बाद लेना या इलेक्शन से पहले लेना? Because if you will wait for the robin, spring is going to be over.
I know.
So what are you telling your clients?
So largely, we have distributed 1/3 we have already invested, and 2/3 will be investing after the election, because you have already invested, say, 100 rupees. The incremental flow, 1/3 we are investing, 2/3 we are keeping separate, or rather parking on sideways.
Okay. It is generally believed that people in Kolkata are not risk takers.
Well, I would disagree with that. It's not that people are not risk takers out there. You would have different people with different asset classes across the country. And it's same with Calcutta. When there is up and down in debt, we simply tell them what we have been doing with them for the last 10 years, and they have made money in debt. So be it around 8 to 9% over a 10-year period, and they have seen different companies having different crises, but still having their returns. And on the equity front, we still tell them that we are making money for the long term.
Okay. Mr. Sinha?
The same thing. Whenever such problems our customers face, we try to be one step ahead. And most of the investors, because they are the long-term players, long-term investors, they don't take much cognizance of this. So they stay put, and most of the investors have remained with us as an investor. Other than that, yes, there was a problem they have faced.
Mukesh bhai, I met somebody, he was, with all due respect to his age, he said he's 75 years old. He said, आप लोग क्या long term बोलते हो यार? 75 years की उम्र में मैं क्या करूँ? What is long term for him?
Whether you are going to use all your money for yourself or is it going to pass on to the next generation?
I was looking for
so
that
basically,
answer.
there is no time limit. It's always long term only.
Okay. So for someone who has a short term view, what should he do?
Short term also has to be defined. So in cricket match today, you have short term T20 also. So you have to be very clear. When you say short term, is it a T20 or a one-day match? I think that clarity further is very required. But yes, when you are putting money in the liquid, where you are putting maybe for a week or so, you cannot afford to face this type of risk. But in the normal credit risk, income funds and all, we didn't panic. You look at the long-term returns, you always get the average returns if you are a long-term investor.
No, I want to just, when Bala and me were discussing and when we were discussing the whole ideation of Voyage, we were in double mind whether we should be doing Voyage before election or after election. See, coming out after election and making a prediction is easy. But coming before election and telling a case that, equities in general will make money, I think is not a brave call, but it is a confidence. So we must acknowledge the timing of this Voyage. It would have been very easy to do the same event after 23rd of May, and then given a 5-year view depending on the government mandate. How many of you understand the power of compounding, the magic of compounding? Everybody does it, right? This is a very, very advanced audience here. How many of you have actually truly followed power of compounding? Okay. How many have you done the right capital allocation and not stopped from capital allocation because you had a view on the market, economy, or politics? So, see, this is what I'm trying to arrive at, okay? All of us here understand the power of compounding. All of us know that today if you believe in equity or asset allocation, we will reach our financial goals. But when I asked the question that how many actually have you implemented it, the number came down to 5%. So that's the message I think I want to take back for all of you, that we know it all, but are we doing the right things? And I'll wrap it up with what Rakesh Jhunjhunwala once told me. He has made 98% of his money. Guess how? He has made 98% of being a bull. Triumph of optimistic and believe in long term. I think that is what I would like to say. Thank you very much. You've been a lovely audience here. Thank you for coming, and it's always a joy to be part of Voyage. Thank you very much, guys.
I have been attending Voyage for last 6 years, and it's been always a great experience. We get a chance to meet all the fund managers being in Bombay, but interacting with our peer fellows from across India is always good, exchanging the views and opinions about the market, the strategy, the industry. So this gives us a chance to interact with everybody. So it's always, we do not want to miss such an event.
It's a great event to connect with all, and I think most importantly to gather all the knowledge. We have distinguished speakers at the event, and I think we are all here to get whatever best we can in terms of market information and insights. And I think this is my second experience. So I've been here before, that was in 2017. And I think it's always well organized because with this scale of, I think we have participants from all across the country, and so many participants, even then it's so well organized, and everybody is being taken care of.
Been an excellent experience, right? The range, the width of opinions, the questions asked has been really, really good. I think we've covered a range of sectors, right? From Indian macro to FX, to my own energy sector, to retail. It's been a very, very great breadth and depth.
That's all from the 6th edition of Aditya Birla Sunlife Mutual Fund presents Voyage 2019, powered by ET Now. I'm sure you're taking back some key insights into macro and micro outlooks, market trends, and information about the world of mutual funds, equities, debt, and other investments. Thank you so much for watching.